All right. My name's Christopher Weber. For those that aren't familiar with me, we're going to start with hacking on some cookbooks and see if this works well. Do this again in the future for other cookbooks, but really just trying to take the idea of pairing a little bit further and kind of hammer on some of the issues. The Tomcat cookbook, as most people are aware, has a fair number of open issues against it right now, and pull requests. And it seems fitting that since it's a community cookbook, that it would make sense to get everybody together and just figure out the direction we need to head. So what I kind of would like from the group that's here is I see two approaches to this. I know what my preference is, but I don't want to completely drive. One option is to start by just reviewing the open pull requests and figuring out whether we should try and pull things in. The other direction I'm thinking that might make sense is really just fire off Test Kitchen for each of the I don't know what they're actually called, but each one of the suite combinations. So if you run, uh,
Switch.
is it well, suite is like the tests, or is like the set of tests, but like per operating system.
Yeah, they're still called suites.
Suites. Okay. So fire off all the test suites and see what's passing and what's not passing, and kind of start there. Does anyone have a preference on how we start with this?
At some point in the not too distant past, Tomcat at least passed convergence on all the platforms that are described in Test Kitchen. So we could start there and see if that's still the case.
Okay. Oh, why don't we kick that off because it'll take a little bit of time, and then come back to it in just a few. Like in the meantime, go kind of review pull requests and see what we have, and use that as kind of a litmus test as to where to head from there. So let me share my screen.
I'll start them off real quick.
Oh no, I've got a magic scripty thing to do
Oh,
that.
all right.
So if I run kitchen tmux, what this is going to do, so everybody can see it, it's going to open a window for each one of the test suites in a tmux session, so we can work through and look at each of them. So those are kicked off, as you can tell. We'll revisit that in just a second here. In the meantime, let me share my screen with, it's DigitalOcean, but we'll swap over to the Ops Code Cookbook stuff. Okay, so let's start with pull requests, and more importantly, let's start with pull requests I can pull in right now. So for those that aren't familiar, chef cookbooks are Apache license, which means there's a CLA that's required for us to be able to pull the code in. So what we can do actually with the new curry bot from force that actually. With the curry bot that's part of Supermarket, this is anybody that's in Supermarket that has an approved CLA on file. The bot goes through and checks each pull request, and so yeah. So I guess we'll start at the bottom and work our way up.
So page 2.
Oh, there's 2 pages? You're kidding me. Oh no, there's only 1 page because I filtered for signed CLA. Okay, so while this is exciting to me, I feel like this would be a bad thing to start with, just because it's going to introduce a ton of well, we're going to it's going to make rebasing everything else even harder. So I feel like this should be one of the last things we take a look at before we
Yeah,
move forward.
I mean, for that particular one, especially since it's from Charles. Hi, Charles. Um, just close it. You know what I mean? Like you can run Rubocop-A at any moment, right? And like it'll.
Well, and it looks like, based on Seth's comment, that it's using Taylor instead of Rubocop, and by as kind of an unofficial standard,
Yeah,
we use Rubocop and not Taylor. Although I've never heard of Taylor before.
it's the other thing that people use that's not Rubocop.
Okay.
To say.
Um, Anyone opposed to me closing this?
I mean, I'm looking at the changed files. It says it looks like he's doing more than just adding rake file and yeah. Um,
Wow.
yeah, that's gonna break the that's gonna break any other merges at all, you know. So
Okay, so let's do this.
and it looks like an automated fix up anyway. So
Okay.
whatever.
So let's create a new issue. Um, Vocop and food. Okay, that makes me feel better. I looked over at my dashboard and I didn't have DigitalOcean instances running.
So one thing about not even just QuickBooks but any code, um, when there's this many outstanding pull requests, like the more pull requests there are, the closer to zero the probability of them all merging cleanly becomes, right?
Yeah, no,
So
for sure.
there's like 26 of them, which means that we basically have a 0% chance that all these pull requests are going to merge cleanly or even work with each other. So keep that in mind while we're looking at all these. The issues themselves may be valid. It's just the individual fixes.
Well, and then the frustrating part is there. I know because I did a brief sweep earlier this week that there are some pull requests that kind of expect other pull requests to get pulled in, and I don't have CLA signed on all of those pull requests.
Yeah. I mean, they may already be signed, but they just might not be in the CurryBot system, right?
Oh,
So
that's true. I can go look that up.
differentiate. Like if I've been casually looking at the responses to CurryBot, right? And CurryBot's like, "Hi, can you click the button?" And he's like, "I did that in 2011, stupid CurryBot." And it's like, no, really, sorry. And that sucks. So that's not delightful. But what do you do?
So let's actually, I think, better approach and how does this sound? And for those that are also on the call, definitely looking for input from all of you because, to be fair, I'm kind of new to this process. It almost seems like it makes sense to, instead of focusing on to look at the actual issues that the cookbooks are trying to, or that the pull requests are trying to fix, and
Yep.
make decisions about whether or not we should do that. So let's do this to make this cool. I think I can do something magical like, hey, create milestone. Today is what? The 6th of September?
Yeah.
All right. So just like initial glance, it looks like this at least from the title. Let's do this. And this pull request from
So
2012, holy crap, because that's probably not going to merge.
Exactly. Another thing is like, so I'm not at all familiar with this cookbook, but just from cursory looking at it, it looks like everything's editing this gigantic monster XML thing, which is going to lead to tears when we try to merge these things together. So it may be worth just like, you know, like enumerating the actual issues that are
Okay.
trying to be addressed here, and like writing those down at one place first, right? Instead
Okay.
of trying to deal with the individual pull requests, like at the code level, you know, just it makes sense to me to like to make a list of concerns, right? Like so, list and address, right? You know, like
Okay.
okay, that's something we want to do, right? Like we want that to be tweakable, um, you know, that sort of thing. SUSE support, you know, like oh okay, you know, maybe um, you know, like sort the issues instead of the pull requests, you know.
Okay. Um, so let's do this. And as I said earlier, please speak up anytime you don't like or think that there are better ways to do this, because, yeah, there is no right way to do this for sure. Okay, so I created a thing um, that's off of my screen, but you guys can. Oh, hey, I'll just share the entire screen. How about we do that? And you'll have Inception. There we go. All right. So allow customizing which IP address Tomcat binds to. I'm going to guess that that's a listen address as well.
Yep.
And that's number 90. Oh, I can do this. Hey, I'm learning. Okay, so Tomcat 7 doesn't. And I seem to remember this being something around like in the specifics of if you're using a wrapper cookbook around it or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of like the we've talked in the past about that idea of um, oh come on of like setting node attributes from within the cookbook type thing.
Yeah, that's the yeah. So that's another thing I want to put up here real quick. Just because people are watching, I see you. Hello, people. If we look at the Tomcat Cookbook's attributes file, like slash attributes slash defaults, um, never ever 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 do this, right? Like we should just delete this file and start over, right? Only because like so if you look at it says like when CentOS, you know, like whatever, but it's like okay, so we're starting with this like base version attribute and then trying to compute other attributes based on it, right? And of course we can set attributes from like 16,000 different like vectors. So this becomes really confusing real fast, and this makes people like hate Chef, right? Because like you're a newbie and you stumble upon this, and like suddenly like the very first thing out the gate is like you're confronted with like Chef's like merge order precedence thing. That's not good to do, right? And this is a classic example of like attributes being like abused as the only way to have variables, right? Um, like these are all keying off the same thing, right? So what I would personally do if I was writing this cookbook, like the very, very first thing I would do with this cookbook is I would go through this attributes file and delete the bulk overwhelming majority of them. Basically anything that says attribute equals space and then like some string with another attribute being computed inside of it, just like eliminate all of these completely, right? Because what we can do is we can just use a straight up Ruby variable in the recipe, right? So we could actually have a variable called configdir equal to Etsy Tomcat, Node Tomcat base version, and have that as like an actual variable in the chef recipe, which we can then use later instead of trying to confuse the attribute system. Right? Like, there's no reason for half of this stuff to be attributes. Attributes are supposed to be tweakable knobs that you set like once at the beginning of the chef run, and then like they don't really change, right? Like, they're not supposed to be dynamic over the course of a chef run. So like this right here is probably causing a lot of the problems that are being addressed in a lot of pull requests, right? So there's probably a good place to start.
Okay, that makes sense. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that.
Hello down there.
I feel like someone was about to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think we got an example of that, but one of my pull requests from a while ago. I just mashed two of the attributes together in where it was useful, basically, rather than trying to compute it in the attributes file, which just hurt. So,
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Because really, and the way to think about it, or at least the way I think about it, and Sean can tell me if I'm wrong on this, and anyone else actually for that matter. I think of attributes as a way to pass in values, and purely as and only as a way to pass in values. Like if you're dealing with a function or a method, like you wouldn't you want to pass it in and then modify it once you're there. So
No.
Okay, let's see. Okay, is anyone else overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that's here? Because I'm feeling like there's a lot here, and I feel like I'm struggling with where to start because there's just so much.
Yep.
Okay, wait a sec. That's
One of the things we could talk about is how Sean has been writing the HTTPD cookbook, because the Tomcat cookbook could just use a rewrite too, maybe.
Yeah. But I mean, it's one thing to say like burn it all to the ground and start over, but it's another to actually do it. And like the rewrites that I've been doing take so freaking long that
Well, then we should maybe sort through things based on how much they hurt people.
Yeah.
I like that, and I think for me, just watching the emails go back and forth and watching the discussion, and I think I'm gonna come over here in just a second because it looks like our kitchen test has finished. But I think let's start by trying to tackle some of this multiple instance stuff because I feel like that's like broken. And I seem to remember CentOS 7 being, or Tomcat 7 on CentOS or some variant of CentOS broken. So let's go look at our tests. Can you guys see my screen on my screen on my terminal all right? Or should I switch it over to just the terminal?
It's fine.
Cool.
For me.
All right. So actually, go on kitchen list. So it looks like SmartOS failed and Tomcat 7 on CentOS 6.5 failed.
Huh.
So if we find that, oh, that didn't even create because yeah, I'll fix that.
Because DigitalOcean.
Yes, the
the ID. Yeah.
we'll fix this real fast because that's important.
We're looking for 1404.
Yeah. All right. And this was the default Ubuntu 14.04, so we'll run it again. All right. Cool. So we've got some brokenness here. Oh my God, that looks painful. Okay, so this is SmartOS.
I mean, honestly, we should.
We're going to skip this because this looks like a
That's
installing Chef issue,
right.
not a us issue.
Right.
Okay, this is definitely a Chef issue.
Woo.
Okay, so let's see.
Is this cookbook doing package installs, or is it actually pulling down the wires from like Apache org?
I'm 99% positive it does package install. So let's go look at this recipe, and then let me just glance really fast and see if there's one that like obviously. Oh, here we go. Tomcat 7 and CentOS 6. So this is an open issue. Did anyone mention? Okay. This doesn't look like it makes sense, or doesn't look like it solves our problem, and that doesn't seem to. And my guess is because we're seeing so many comments on that issue, we're not going to find an actual issue talking about it. So let's fix this up.
Yeah. I'm going to spin up a VM real quick.
All right, sounds good.
Because even like a Tomcat 7 package for the platform to begin with, you know, like that's
Let's do that.
quite likely the cause of consternation here.
All right, well, let's figure out where we're running into problems here. So the resource declaration. Okay, no candidate version available for Tomcat 7. Oh, I know what the problem is here. I bet we have to include EPEL to make this work. Like
That's why the VM I'm spinning up is the Yum Apple Cookbook.
And just because I've got a bunch of people here on the call, is there anyone that's on the call that has a particular pull request that is super important to you that would make your life more delightful or less painful? I guess we're dealing with Java, so aside of me, we're dealing with computers, so
I don't even know how computers work.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, so Yum search on Tomcat without EPEL enabled gives you Tomcat and Tomcat 6. Yum search on, I'm sorry, just gives you Tomcat 6. Yum search Tomcat on CentOS with Tomcat enabled just gives you, I'm sorry, with EPEL enabled gives you Tomcat and Tomcat 6. So Yum info.
Did you clear your RAM cache?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just found the thing, yeah. No, it's Tomcat 6 only. Let me check. Let me spot 7 real quick.
Okay. I'm gonna turn off my screen share for a second and go like search my email because I feel like someone mentioned this in one of the things or one of the issues, but
Does anybody know if the EL7 Apple is even active yet?
well, Apple 7 would be CentOS 7, and we're dealing with CentOS 6.
Right, I was just out of curiosity. I don't think it was last time I looked a couple weeks ago. So, for installing from packages, it looks like Tomcat 6 is going to be the only one supported from packages on Apple 6 or EL6.
Okay. So it looks like
Unless is there some magical Tomcat Yum repo somewhere we can install?
no, it looks like they just they dropped the version number is the problem. So let me reshare my screen.
It's J package.
All right. And Dan, thanks for your link. I'll take a look at that pull request in just a second. No, I don't want the.
Oh yeah, don't worry about that, Chris. It's from ages ago about the attribute stuff. So.
Okay. Oh, from our discussion earlier, would that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So apparently Joe Rocklin is saying that in Apple they stopped calling it Tomcat 7 in CentOS 6, and it's just Tomcat now.
Lovely.
Can you just like yum install Tomcat and see what version it gives you?
Yeah, I can do that. Yep, version 7. Look at that.
Yay. Okay, so oh crap, let's take a look at how this cookbook works.
Okay, so without EPEL, it's Tomcat 6 in the package name and no Tomcat package. With EPEL, the Tomcat package gives you Tomcat 7 and Tomcat 6 gives you Tomcat 6.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Base logic.
Yeah, I guess we should probably assume that people are not using EPL. So.
Or you can just bake that in the cookbook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Well, you can't assume they are using EPEL is the real way to say that.
Yeah, yeah.
If you do, you break a lot of people.
I mean, packages come from certain Yum channels, right? If you want them, you have to enable the Yum channel.
But a lot of people get packages and store them because they can't get to the internet.
Yeah.
Mirror the Yum channel.
What?
Mirror the Yum channel.
But now you're dictating solutions to people.
I mean, if they want their computers to work properly, they're going to have to do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, crazy question then. So, so I guess there's two questions here.
My other favorite thing too, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt on this, is that when I tried to do, actually, we had an EPEL mirror, I think, and I don't know if it was EPEL, it was something. The Yum Cookbook automatically assumed that the only place I could get EPEL shit was from EPEL, so fuck you.
Did we fix that, or is that still broken?
I don't know.
Like that?
It was the last time. It was like a year ago, so I hope it got fixed, but I don't really care. My point is that dictating that bullshit at whatever level breaks other people because they don't have the exact solution you think they should have.
Well, I mean, so within that year, I rewrote Yum and rewrote the Yum Cookbook family. So if you look at the Yum EPEL Cookbook now, it's fully attribute driven, and you can point the Yum channel at whatever URL you want. So you can totally point that anywhere. So that's cool too.
Okay, now Sasha, so I mean, you've got a lot more experience since you've done some of the consulting stuff. Help me out here because these are things that I'm always curious about as we write these community cookbooks. Like the world I come from, We absolutely do. What's the first thing I've ever done in any ops shop is, oh, we depend on this repo, so we're gonna make an internal clone of it because we want it to be, we want a copy internally that quote unquote never goes down.
Yeah. A lot of places don't or can't do that. Like big companies, you'll find that Target won't have an ePal mirror, and like GE probably doesn't have any. Well, GE might these days, but like a lot of big companies who haven't been plugged into what the rest of us are doing for the last few years are not there yet, and so they don't let people do that for whatever reason. Like at a place that I was at, it was a big deal that we actually had some mirrors out in AWS, and we had one port open to the AWS server that we used for that stuff, and because it was so hard to even get that one, we just got 443, and then we proxied it with an Apache server that security didn't know about, so that we could do all kinds of stuff. But like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like ePel was not even an option, and then you have to maintain the mirrors, and a lot of people can't. So I mean, that's the real problem, is that like, I don't know, I don't think you should actually dictate where a package is going to come from. You shouldn't have to in the Tomcat cookbook, should you?
Okay, so at some point something's got to give, right? Like if you want to install software on your computer, you have to host it somewhere, right? So
yeah, we put it in Artifactory, the Tomcat packages.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so the package is available off. It's available straight out of the normal repo, isn't it? Though, but just called something different. So we have maybe this problem with Red Hat. So we run Red Hat internally.
Mm-hmm.
That'll get patched by Red Hat, security patches, all that kind of shit, and that'll come down. It's not my preference, but it's other administrators' preferences not to even enable VPL, basically, which hurts me. But yeah.
So okay, because like to be frank, I absolutely see this as being one of the bigger problems that I want to see solved as to how we like construct cookbooks, and we should work on a good pattern for this. Okay, so let's do this. I think
my attitude is, like these cookbooks are meant to address kind of like the pain points for a broad amount of people. I mean, if you look at okay, so cross-platform, right? Let's take something like Apache, right? We use it in all of our training sessions and all of our demos as like the classic package template service kind of pattern, right? Where we install this package, we like write the config file, we turn the service on, right? And that's a very good hello world for config management. But in real life, it's actually a lot more complicated than that, right? Which is why the Apache 2 cookbook's like 16 bajillion lines long, and why the HTTPD cookbook's like 16,000 bajillion lines long, right? So that's cool. And like if you're behind like 9,000 firewalls, right? And you've got like super crazy, like specialized needs for your stuff, then yeah, write the 3 resources, right? If you want to consume, like an upstream cookbook that's designed to solve for, a bunch of people, then maybe host, you know what I mean? Like I'm not, like it's going to be impossible to build logic into this thing that says like, oh, I'm hosting my RPM artifact on Artifactory, so get it here, right? Like that's untenable. Like you're literally solving for infinity here, right? So like, what do we do about that?
So go ahead. Someone else wanted to chime in.
Yeah, I think we've got a similar problem in the Java cookbook, just for reference. So.
Okay. So here's my approach, and tell me how this makes sense to people. My thought process at this point is we use the Yum EPEL cookbook, which will allow this to be installed for most people. For those that, and then what that I think gives us, and Sasha, help me out if I'm like crazy here, but in concept, what that allows us to do is if we standardize on using the Yum EPEL cookbook for any place where we're requiring packages out of EPEL, it gives the ability of the administrator to just stub out that cookbook if they need to to solve that problem, if you will. So like if I'm at a big corporation and I've got my chef server, I can still use the Tomcat cookbook, which depends on the Yum EPEL cookbook, and I'm just going to stub out that on my internal chef server. I'm going to stub that out as um, don't actually stand up any repositories because I'm
Yeah, I
just
don't care about dependencies. It's using things that I care about. Like you can depend on anything you want. I talk to people about that all the time. I'm like, don't get mad about these things that your cookbook depends on that you don't need. They're just like libraries or jar files. Get over it and move on. So depending on stuff is not a problem. It's demanding things that to require functionality to work is where I fall down.
okay. So and this is something I always ran into with Puppet, and I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on. Um, so like the simplest solution for this is we just include the Yum EPEL recipe like we do the apt recipe but in the so for in this case the kitchen YAML file. Um, how do we just communicate that in the docs that you have to require this recipe ahead of time in order if you either need to have the package in a repo or you need to require this package and does that
Well, I mean, the
seem
package has to be available for install or nothing's going to work, right? I mean, that's necessary. It shouldn't matter to us where the package comes from as long as you can say package blah.
okay?
Yeah.
We should be able to say package blah without telling them where they're getting their package from. And if they have to do magic to get the package to show up, that's not our problem either.
Cool. And then for the way we solve this
We
problem
can
for
offer them a solution with EPEL too, but we shouldn't demand it.
um,
That's my feeling.
that makes sense to me. Okay. So I like that loose coupling. So that works to me. So let's
But yeah, I don't care about metadata dependencies and like pulling in 50 packages for Tomcat. Well, that's stupid anyway, but that's also not our fault. It's the RPM packaging bullshit that goes along with that. And that's what made me rage a few years ago with Apache is that it pulled in fuck all everything from all the way to like the Postgres client, and I was like, what? I raged about that to myself because I was working on something else because we were trying to anyway. My point is that we can't help what packages want.
okay. Fair enough. So let's do a couple things here. So um,
They're going
looking
to have that stuff available to them somehow, but it's not our problem to one, um, figure it out for everybody, or two, make them do one thing.
Yep,
agreed.
I totally agree with that.
Okay, so let's do this. So it looks like I'm having that moment of I know I should know Chef Sugar better right now, but I don't because that would make this easier. Um, trying to decide what the right way to break this up is. Um, so like yeah. Okay. Let me read through this a little more closely just to make sure I understand what we're doing. Oh, okay, so value for platform. I see what's going on here. My apologies, I'm not super familiar with all of um, the specifics. So let's do this. Okay, is this? Give me a second. I've got to go look up this method um, in Chef or in the doc. Sasha, if you have any better suggestions on how to to do this match, because I mean, essentially what we need to do here is the default is that, but if the platform is
And I mean, I don't know. I haven't ever done these. I don't do multi-platform cookbooks for the most part because I'm usually working on a place that like only has one.
okay,
So I'd look at something that has a recent, rewrite that does this. I don't really know what that would be if Apache or I don't know what Sean been doing with HTTPD. Aren't you doing that now?
well, what he did with that is he actually broke each platform into separate cookbooks, or I'm sorry, or well, yeah,
Some places do that too. I mean, and then you end up with several, base recipes in the cookbook, and that's fine too. I don't really know. I mean, these attribute files do get pretty hard to read. Or is this a recipe?
yeah, this
Yeah.
is a recipe. So let's
I don't know. Like yeah, I'd have to think about it and poke at it and change my mind a couple times probably. Like I don't know that we need to actually write code today. I mean, even just taking notes and then farming out stuff to do
okay.
is a good idea. Like instead of trying to make decisions about stuff that I don't know.
That makes sense to me. A side of me was kind of hoping to have something, have some code put together, but I like your idea. I think that makes a lot of sense as far as how we're gonna move ahead on this. Um,
We could even take just like the 2 hours today and then redo it again on, say, Monday. I have to go to New York on Tuesday, but I'll be home on Monday
okay,
and Friday next week. So if we wanted to farm out stuff to do while we looked at stuff and then came back, and
okay,
we can work on it together too. I'm not saying we can't do things together. I'm just saying, sometimes it's hard to stuff. So this is our first talk about all this stuff, so I don't know that it's entirely possible to get good code out of today.
agreed. And like one of my frustrations is my inner sysadmin is really good at reading code, but writing code is something I'm still like because I'm fairly new to Chef still. Like I can get good code because I write tests and all that stuff, but it takes me a
Hmm.
long time to get there because yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so let's add this to the milestone because I like that so that we keep track as something to come back and look at. So, oh, you guys probably can't see that, huh? And as for the record, this is completely like this mechanism, this doing that like the hacking together type thing is completely an experiment to see how well it works. So I'm interested for feedback for how people like this as well. Um, okay, so let's do this. Uh, um, let's see. All right. Is there anything else that I needed to make note of from this particular issue of getting this up and running?
Sorry, my internet connection fell off. So,
No worries.
um,
We basically decided that trying to write code right now, especially with me at the helm, is probably not the smartest thing. So
Yeah.
we're gonna just kind of start to make notes and add things that are kind of to that milestone that I created
yeah,
as a way to track discussion from this and like outcomes, and then like either work together to hack on those specific issues or come back to them a little bit later. So, okay, I know that one thing I want to talk about because it's been just in my watching of things. Like if you go through the issues, there is a ton of stuff that all revolves around um, this like server.xml.erb. And this particular issue I have seen come up a few times. Like I think that this is just a typo, so maybe we should try and fix this. So let's go take a look at this real fast. Um, so this file makes me cry, so everybody knows.
Why?
Just because there's just, oh, you know what? This isn't the one I was dealing with. It was
XML makes me cry in general. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the server XML specifically. It's just the way that Tomcat has its stuff set up.
no,
XML is, trash to work with anyway. I hate it.
no, I was actually having flashbacks to the chef client client.rb file. Like I went and looked at it and was like, oh my God, there's so much logic inside the template. It's scary.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've seen some of this, actually. How old is this pull request?
This one's fairly new. Like it's been around for a while. So let's go look.
I've seen some of these from either this is the Tomcat. I think that I have seen these from the Tomcat cookbook. And the problem is that sometimes these are set and sometimes they aren't. Maybe we just need to make defaults for things that don't matter.
Oh no, actually, if you look at it, yeah, no, this is what this is doing. Um, is yeah, no, this is absolutely a logic error, and I think there are 3 or 4 different pull requests against the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because this one deals with line 87, and I think they mentioned line 97 being same issue, and you can see it like if it's set, it breaks things, or if it's not set, it breaks things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
although the one on line 97 doesn't break shit because it's inside of a comment.
Let me pull up the cookbook.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm dumb.
No, you have it up, and I just want to pull up the rest of the file.
Okay. Well, no, like I'm sucking at sharing my screen is the answer. Because like I'm sitting here with my mouse doing. In fact, I'll open it up.
Oh,
So
all I can see is the pull request that you have up right now. So I'm going to pull open the whole file and look at the existing file.
it should be displaying now. But yeah, no, I was sitting like pointing to the line numbers with my
Oh,
mouse.
I see.
Like I'm doing this bit. So on 97, or I guess it's actually 96, it doesn't actually matter because it's inside of a comment block. But the one
Mhm.
on 47 does. Or was it 47? I think it was 87. So I absolutely, just looking at this pull request, think we should just pull the shit in right now because like that's obviously broken.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to pull it, pull it.
Okay, so let's do this. Any
Didn't we
opposition?
already establish that the base build right now is failing anyway?
For CentOS, it's only failing for Tomcat 7 on CentOS 6, which is a
Okay.
packaging problem, like it's calling a package that's non-existent. So, uh, okay, give me a second.
I mean, honestly, one of the things that make me crazy about some of these files is the fact that they have to have 90 million lines of comments and they can't just have a documentation page somewhere. Like this would be
Oh,
so much easier to read if we didn't have 8 million lines of HTML comments.
oh, totally. You know what? Like I'm about what I'm about to do. I'm like as I click it, I'm gonna wait for Seth to come and scold me for doing it because yeah. But just to make sure that this is oh crap, I can't. Oh, you know what? This is an obvious fix. Hey, what do you know? Uh, Apparently, I don't know how to get. Okay, so that is actually a fairly big fix because I think there were a lot of things that were broken as a result of that. Yeah, they were changing the exact same thing in here. So, conversation. As a note for folks that happen to watch this video later, it's super useful if you, when you say you've seen it fixed in 3 various places to mention those 3 various places because we can.
To link to them in the ticket discussion, yeah?
Yeah,
Or in the issue discussion.
like super useful to do that. Okay, we'll see what this does. Okay, this is a feature, so we'll label this a feature. Or an enhancement. And we're going to do this. Cool. All right, let's keep going. I feel like we've got momentum. I don't know why, but it does feel that way. So let's take a look at this listen address stuff. Is this adding a new feature or wow? This always kills me when you see some of these and there's just tons of commits. Okay, so listen address. Okay, help me out here because this is killing me. When people like I don't understand the purpose of adding these things inside of comment blocks. I wonder if people just don't realize they're comment blocks. Okay, so that one, that looks like it's fairly well documented. Just make sure I still have people here. Got quiet all of a sudden.
I'm muted a lot because I'm eating.
No worries. I ate just before coming to the thing. And I don't think anybody will be opposed, but I scheduled this thing for 4 hours. I kind of think more than about 2 is kind of crazy. In fact, we may even call it sooner than that because I do think that we should that Sasha's suggestion of let's take some time to just figure out what we're dealing with is a big deal. So here's something that's kind of interesting to me, and help me out here. Like, so let's just look at it from forgetting for a second the things that need to be done to it. But like, if you're looking at, so with recipes, you've got the default recipe, which just installs the thing. And then it uses this Tomcat instance. So, Sasha, is it normal to run multiple Tomcat instances?
That's a discussion that could go on for a while.
Okay.
It depends on who you talk to.
Okay.
It's becoming less common, I guess is the best way to put it, because not everybody uses tiny VMs to run instances anymore still. But back in the day when we had lots of big servers, and that was the most useful way to make good use of all of your resources is, yeah, you ran like 3 to 6 instances of something on a server. Like the first JBoss instance I ever set up for a place, we ran 6 instances of JBoss to a server on 40 servers in a data center. And I wrote this really complex port system so that you could tell from something what app each port belonged to and stuff, because you had 6 instances and you had to know.
Okay, that makes complete sense. Yeah, because it makes sense when you're running on things like, if you're running a V890 with running Solaris 9,
right?
That makes a ton of sense to use it that way because you didn't have the benefits of virtualization.
And yeah, and people still aren't doing that necessarily in places, and it's still a discussion that's being had with some folks. So like, it even took me a while to come around to it because honestly, when you start making single instances, especially of Tomcat on a single whatever, you have a lot of unused resources regardless because it just takes up a lot of resources to make a server, regardless of how small a VM is. So and that's where the container ideas start to make people happier because they don't use up as much resources to create a container as they do a whole server.
That makes sense. Yeah, and even then, you ran into issues where when we were running things under Solaris 10 zones, you freaked people out by, oh, well, it's a zone, but how do I know that that's the same thing as the operating system? So, okay, cool. That actually makes a lot of sense. What is interesting to me, though, as I'm looking through things,
Is this a pull request that we're looking at?
No, this is the actual code. Like,
Okay.
so help me out just for shits and giggles. Like, as I'm reading through this recipe to get it more towards like what we're doing with HTTPD, like we already have a resource provider.
Yeah, I didn't actually realize that this was all in here. This is actually new.
Okay.
Last I looked at Tomcat, it wasn't doing this stuff.
Okay.
Let me
Well,
go back and let me look at the recipes here and see.
I seem to remember, like, I feel like this may have been something that we pulled in it fairly recently.
Yeah, I mean, I was working on something like this at a client a while ago, but never got around to finishing it up. I have like a Tomcat-y cookbook in my home repo that I just is kind of in a state of complete disarray as I was moving stuff around between recipes and lightweight resource providers. But this is where I was going.
So, I'm not sure if Sean is still here. Yeah, he is. Okay.
28 days ago was the last pull request on this, but that was syntax. Let me look at the history.
And to be fair, like, if we broke things, I will take like full responsibility because I was probably
support running multiple instances. Right on. That's huge. That's enormous. Okay, so the problem, I'm guessing where you guys really changed, or where this was really changed, was in June when we brought in the pull request for support running multiple instances. Look at the changes for that on this just one file.
Yeah, but it was
like it's completely rearranged.
Yeah, and I think the reason we were okay with it is because it had tests and stuff.
No, it's cool. I think it's great. I'm totally fine. I think it's good. I'm just saying that's. I haven't looked at the Tomcat cookbook in probably 6 months.
Okay. So here's my crazy thought. Like, maybe what we do is we do a major version release soon that just yanks this shit out. Like, or we take. Like, a side of me thinks we should take like line 21 through like 67 and create an install recipe. And the Tomcat instance should... Oh, actually, hey, Sean, can you point... From HTTPD, you may not still be around.
Sorry, I was just muted.
Cool. So in HTTPD, you're doing something like this, right? Where like you have the multi-instance support goodness?
It looks like there's a base instance, though, too, installed.
But, I mean, like, HTTPD is like kind of my conceptual playground for doing super advanced things, and not all of it's going to translate onto this right now. So, but yes.
Well, no, but for sure. But like, how are you handling the initial install of Apache, right? Because so let me switch over. You can actually see me talk instead of.
I have a library that searches a hash and finds the package name for the platform version, and all that stuff, and the version of Apache you want to run.
But how do you manage that singleton? Like,
well, the way I'm doing it is if you say HTTPD service default, it's a special case, right? Mm-hmm. And then anything else will kind of create. It's creating a directory structure for you. It's copying around init scripts, and like it's.
That's what I was doing too with the Tomcat stuff that I was working on last year. Is because when you have a base instance, it's just a completely different use case for multiple instances, and you have to be able to account for both.
Right.
Well, and it's interesting because it looks like it's treating them the same way based on the code.
Does it? I thought it has a base instance. Hang on.
The difference is what is which things are getting passed into that to that resource provider or lightweight. I'm just going to say resource provider because that implies it could possibly be lightweight.
Well, Sean pulled in the change request, but who actually wrote it? Do we know?
Gitlang? I don't know. Let's see. I pulled in a lot of change requests over like Christmas, I was just like fingers.
Elliot Kendall UCSF.
Oh, UCSF.
Elliot Kendall.
I bet we can talk to people at UCSF. That's kind of awesome. And even more exciting that I know people that there are people at UCSF running Chef. Like, that's exciting to me.
Like, we've got 2 open incompatible problems here. Is that what you guys were looking at earlier?
Okay, give me 1 second. I want to see this. Number 70. Who made?
I feel like now I wasn't prepared to have this conversation because I didn't realize the Tomcat Cookbook had pulled in, like, this is a major change. Like, this should have been like a pre-dot change, not a post-dot change, like a major version change. Maybe it was, I don't know. But I wasn't prepared because I didn't realize that it had this done.
Well, if that makes you feel, if it makes you feel any better, I didn't understand that.
This is still .16 listed in here. I would call this I don't know. Maybe it's still backwards compatible, but I would still call this a number change. And why is .16 still? It should have a number in front.
I don't remember.
We should 1.0 this cookbook, please, when we do something here.
I probably bumped the middle octet because technically in Simver you're allowed to. You have wiggle room before 1.0. Like after 1.0, like this would have been a 2.0, right? But
this should have been a 2.0, regardless, or a dot something.
Yeah.
This is like major change. I mean, it's good. I'm not being disapproving of the changes. It's good change. It's just it's major.
Well, so really, what it sounds like as I'm talking through this, and this is the same problem like the Chef Client Cookbook has. Our test suite just is not built to handle this use case, right? Like what we should be doing is, there's a couple things. And help me out if I'm crazy here, folks. What we essentially, there are 2 big things outside of like fixing CentOS 7 on or Tomcat 7 on CentOS 6. Like the big thing we need to do is Test Kitchen needs to test the actual resources that we're using here, like this instance resource, and we need to. Okay, where did it go? Oh, because it's library. That makes sense.
Yep, cross-platform's hard, and once you start, I mean, so this is an example of one of those things that has been around for
the kitchen YAML hasn't been updated since April.
It's probably the first time it was updated at all.
I know. I'm just saying, we're probably not even running the tests on the new stuff. Even if it came with tests, it doesn't look like we've brought it into our tests. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, and we're still working through what the testing needs to look like. So no, for sure. Okay, guys. Oh no, providers. Okay, I'm crazy. Am I going to the right place? Yes. Here we go. Well, cool. So here's my takeaway, and tell me if I'm crazy here. Essentially, we have the big action that needs to be taken away, that we need to do is we need to basically test the default test that when the base instance gets instantiated that Tomcat's actually running. We need to test that multiple instances actually work, and that when those attributes are passed in, we actually end up with multiple instances, and then test that, and then break out the install portion of that out of the default recipe so that it's. I'll have to look at an example of how that at a better way to handle that, but like in concept, there should be a way to just say, if I call a Tomcat resource, it does the things, right? And if I call multiple Tomcat resources, it only does the things once. Which I guess I can do with crazy resource introspection, but
yeah, and I mean you can step into the Tomcat resource with Chef Spec. Problem is you don't know what it needs to look like yet, right? So you get a chicken and egg problem where where it's like, okay, like I have no idea what this is supposed to look like, so I can't test for it. So
Okay.
yeah,
I thought you said that pull request came with tests.
I thought it did, and maybe I'm
probably
failing.
came with a minimal one.
I don't see even a test directory.
Yeah. So, I probably am wrong then. I've been known to be wrong, and we probably shouldn't have pulled this in when we did. It's freaking awesome, but like, yeah, we probably broke things. Which
Did you
I'm
even
sorry.
work here?
What?
Did you even work here in June? That
No.
June?
Yes.
I guess you did.
Yes, I did.
All right, I blame you.
Yes. I may not be the one that did the pull request, but no, for sure.
Sean.
Like,
We blame
yeah.
Sean.
Yes, blame me. You can blame me for whatever you want. Blame me for all the things.
I wish I knew in Google Hangouts how to like play a random song because I've got a song from high school that like fits this situation.
That's what we really need to do here, though, is start setting up some testing for this cookbook, I think, before we start. Because it looks like they've actually done what I was going to suggest for rewrites anyway, at least as a good step. It's just that we don't have anything to verify that it actually works.
Okay. I like that as an approach. So let's do this.
And I would, like, put some kind of 1.0 beta on this, too, because it's really different. But I suppose it's too late now that it's been a month and a half.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I think version 16 works on a single instance anyway, so I think we've got a reasonable base to work with.
all right. So let's do this. Add all. And then I'll go back to sharing my screen so you guys can see the crazy that I'm typing and can tell me if I'm wrong. Am I missing anything? And I'll go ahead and assign myself to this because, like,
I think that's fine for now.
okay.
Can Tomcat even be installed because we're having problems with 7?
Yep. Okay, and we'll assign this to the milestone just so I can go look back at it and be like, oh, that thing. And finally, I did have a thought. I'm curious now that we're looking at this. There were a bunch of these fixed Tomcat script values.
Anything submitted before June 11th is now potentially invalid.
Yeah, I think this came afterwards. Like this, and there's a couple of these, right? So there's that one. That makes sense. Oh, that means that that's just broken. Oops, I know. We'll have to go fix that. There was another one that was like fix the script. Oh, you know what? I bet it's just an issue and not a pull request. And I'm in the filter is for pull requests right now. Yeah. So okay. And it's submitted by the same person. Okay, so let's look at what this is changing because I think this is probably like a brokenness that we should just try and fix. Oh God.
Oh my God, kill me.
Oh God. Let me go look at what this is doing. Okay, wait a second. I gotta go back because I didn't. Okay, line 90. Because that isn't opaque at all. Oh my God. I am sure that there is brokenness here. Like, I can see it. But, like,
I'm sorry, that whole block gives me heartburn. We can't start. We can't. No, you can't even pull in that pull request because like that whole block makes me want to cry.
oh God. Yeah.
What's that?
Sorry. You know what? We're being judgmental about somebody on air, so I'm going to stop because that was rude.
Well,
But
no, like,
Pro
this
minus
is,
PI is giving me heartburn.
well, like, I'm sure that this solves a problem. Like, absolutely. It's just one of those things. Like, it's the reason we've gotten ourselves as sysadmins into trouble over the years. Is like, you can't look at that and understand what it's doing, even in the context of what's going on.
Well, I can, but it's still probably not the right way to do that.
Okay, well, I actually am having a hard time grokking exactly what it's trying to do. So,
It's
So when
using
you have multiple instances, you have multiple start scripts for each instance,
okay.
and it's changing things inside the instance so that it actually like it's changing naming stuff.
Oh, okay. So essentially, if you can follow my mousy thing, um, it's copying to this new file, and then it's inside the file, it's changing base instance to instance, and then down here,
But what we really need is a template and not this because tiers.
okay, that makes complete sense. And like, just so that we're clear, because like, you hit the nail on the head. Like, while we are being judgmental about code, it is absolutely about code, not about people. Like, um, the person that did this is obviously smarter than I am when it comes time to Perl, because like I looked at this and was like, what in God's name is it doing? Because I don't understand.
Oh, it's the same as like doing a sed. If you've never done one of those with the command line, the Perl minus PIE is similar.
Oh no, for sure. Like I get that it's doing a substitution, but like my ability to read regex is
Oh, yeah.
horrible. And it's what I was getting at. It's just being kind of opaque. But okay, so it's doing the thing. So while I do think this is a horrible way to accomplish this using Chef, I do think we should probably pull this in because if that line is missing, it seems like bad things would happen. Like it seems like the multiple instance stuff wouldn't work right.
What's the diff say?
I'd pull
Because
it
we
in.
don't have any tests.
If you're going to pull it in and fix it up manually, because that execute statement's going to run every chef client run.
Oh, yeah, because it does. Okay, I'm just gonna add this and go back and figure it out because I'd have to go set up an instance and go figure out exactly what this looks like. But like if you look at the conversation, it makes a ton of sense. Like there, if the init script yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because you basically have to change the Tomcat config. So, okay, I'm gonna mark this to be looked at as part of the milestone because it needs to be looked at because that stuff is important. Because what I'm reading, and tell me if I'm crazy here, but the way I'm reading this issue is effectively when the instance starts, it's using the same config file for multiple instances. And I bet that this is one of those it works correctly on one operating system, but doesn't work correctly on another operating system type thing.
This is why you need different setups for a base instance versus multiple instances. It's part of it.
Yeah, agreed.
So, I mean, unless the Tomcat6.conf is, no, because if you have multiple instances, and I don't know, I have to look at it. I haven't done any Tomcat work in over a year.
Okay.
So, like, I mean, we're going to have to unsnarl it a bit, I think. And we don't have any tests, so pulling stuff in isn't.
Yeah, minus what we pulled in earlier, which was an obvious, like, that's broken.
I'm wondering whether some of the multiple instance stuff we just break out, and we just don't deal with it, because we've got these two massively different use case scenarios going on, and you could break the one doing fixes for the other one, sort of thing. So.
Yeah.
That's what I originally did was, like, I have a recipe for I'm only ever going to have one instance of Tomcat on the server, and I had a recipe for I'm going to have multiple instances. Let's do it. You know, that's kind of how I was going for things.
And I think the way I was looking at the code just a few seconds ago, like, if you go into the thing, and are you guys actually seeing my screen? Because let me see what's on the screen. Okay, that's what's on the screen. Yeah, give me a second here. So, like, basically, they're using this magic. Like, if it's base name, then do these things. And then I think there's like a big else later, which is dirty in a lot of, like, oh, okay, actually, no, it's right here. So that isn't horrible. You just can't follow to save my life. Well, it actually, looks like, minus the magic nature of that term base, that it's not actually all that horrible the way they're handling it. So that's not a bad idea. Okay. So here's where I stand right now. I feel like we've got enough action items. I don't think we're gonna sit and, like, hack on chef spec together to build and server spec to get this working yet. Unless people actually want to do that, just, I'd say by show of hands, but no one else is projecting video. So, is there anyone, like, speak up in chat if you actually want to? Anyone that actually wants to try and hack on chef spec right now, or that type of thing? I'm going to take that as a no. So we'll do one more thing, and we'll do it on air since we're here. Just because it's always interesting to see how the sausage is made. Okay. Bump the version. Yeah, I think we did a middle version bump. That's awesome. Kind of excited that we're not doing dev odd anymore, because, yeah, that's less confusing. And because I always go and check, and we're at 062. And it looks like Berkshelf has already found it. So let's see. Cool. It's already been downloaded a few times too. Awesome, awesome. All right, guys. I'm thinking we should call it for the day. Does anyone oppose to that?
Yeah, I think we've got enough work. I've got enough to work with anyway, so that's fine.
Cool, cool. All right, guys and gals. I apologize for using.
Don't worry about it. I don't care. I never dare.
It's horrible though, right? Like, because I don't know that what I would.
I say guys all the time.
I guess y'all is the right. Yeah. Anyway.
Let's start using y'all.
Y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Y'all. All right. Well, thank you very much, and I'll put this up on YouTube and blast it out, and we'll try and get something scheduled soon enough, or keep your eyes peeled to the cookbook, and hopefully you'll see some commits and some new releases and stuff. So, thank you.
All right, thanks.